Thank you. May I have the defendant's opening statement, please?
Members of the jury, I would like to present to you the facts of today's case. On November 29th, Ms. Herzl went to work at approximately 6 a.m. At that time, the chair was not on the street, so we know it was not left out overnight. That day was partly cloudy and there was no rain or snow, so the chair was dry and not left out for a long period of time. Later that day, Ms. Herzl noticed the chair while walking her dog and brought it into her home before bringing it to her classroom on December 1st. Patrick Kelly then notices the chair on a visit to Ms. Herzl's room and decides that he does not like the chair and unreasonably orders Ms. Herzl to remove it from her classroom or that it will be thrown away. Ms. Herzl, being protected by the 14th Amendment, states that all citizens are given an equal opportunity to any form of trial or review process before having their right to own their property revoked, leading to Ms. Herzl declining to remove the chair from a room on the basis that she was being unfairly discriminated against. Mr. Kelly decided to pursue a lawsuit against Ms. Herzl rather than actually examine the chair and hold it to the same standards as all other property and possessions in the school. Ms. Herzl should not have to remove the chair from her room without going through the proper review process. She has been an employee at the school for 14 years and has brought many items into her room, including a couch, and has never had to undergo this review process. When the school failed to provide a working projector for Ms. Herzl and she brought a personal television in to use for teaching, that was never questioned or had to go through a review process. Or when she brought a lamp or her couch in, neither went through that process either, so why the chair? Mr. Kelly is making an unfairly targeted attack on Ms. Herzl, spending his time, which he's being paid for, arguing about chairs rather than ensuring student and teacher safety or helping Mr. Collins deal with keeping the school clean with the endless requirements during this horrible pandemic. Not to mention the numerous and more serious health hazards like the bathrooms, auditorium chairs, and the cafeteria. Mr. Kelly clearly does not have his time well managed and is making a targeted attack at Ms. Herzl. I hope all of the members of today's jury can see that. Thank you. The defense rests.
Thank you, counsel. Witness number 1 was unable to appear today, and so each group, each side, sent him some questions. We're going to have each side read a statement from Mr. Forget, who was witness number 1, in answering those questions. So, can I have, I think it looks like Evelyn Buxton and Tori Orender, you guys are going to be reading statements from Mr. Forget. Would you please come up? And we'll have Evelyn, you'll read yours first.
All right, so I will be speaking for Mr. Forget, Superintendent of Schools. My first question was, what duties and responsibilities go along with being superintendent? And his response was, I am responsible for the oversight of all day-to-day operations of the district, including all personnel and management functions, ensuring the effectiveness of the educational experience and safety of all students and staff. If Triton were a company, my title would be CEO or Chief Executive Officer. All district-level administrators and building principals report directly to me, and they oversee specific areas of operation. So, my next question was, what is Mr. Kelly's role as principal? And his response was, Mr. Kelly is responsible for the oversight of all day-to-day operations of the high school, including all personnel and management functions, ensuring the effectiveness of educational experience and the safety of all students and staff. My next question was, what authority does Mr. Kelly have when it comes to outside furniture in a classroom? His response was, given that he is responsible for the decisions made within the school building, including those impacting the safety of all students and staff, as I noted previously, he reserves the right to determine which furniture may pose a safety risk or hazard, and may ban such furniture accordingly. All right, so my next question. In the school handbook, file number 404, it states, the school committee recognizes the benefits accrued those active citizen involvement and support of the public schools. The school committee further acknowledges the value of individual or group donations on behalf of the public schools, which may be helpful to maintain, augment, or initiate programs. All such donations are accepted and used at the discretion of the school committee. The school committee may decline to accept gifts it deems not to be in the best educational interests of the district. So, I asked, based on the school policy, what types of donations could be brought in without going through the school committee. His response was, school committee sets policy, which are in essence the laws of the district. They then charge me with establishing procedures that ensure those policies are adhered to, the legal equivalent of regulations at the state level. As a matter of practice, policies allow for me to assign responsibility, as I cannot be everywhere at all times. By law and regulation, the principal has the autonomy to make operational decisions within the school building, and I have further designated that only donations in excess of $10,000 need to be accepted by the school committee. Small routine donations only need to have my approval. My next question, what are the protocols when the teacher would like to bring in an outside piece of furniture? His response was, the educator wishing to introduce a new piece of furniture should first check with the building principal, and once cleared, may bring that furniture into the building. It is important to note the difference between a donation, which needs to be accepted, and a teacher who simply brings in a piece of furniture for his or her classroom and retains responsibility of removing it when it is no longer in use. If the donation is not accepted, it is personal property residing in a public classroom. That is all.
As it was previously stated, Mr. Forget could not be here, so I will be reading the answers to my witness questions. My first question to Mr. Forget was, have you ever seen this chair before today? He answered, no, I have not seen this chair prior to recording this testimony. My second question was, have you ever reviewed other furniture in the building before this chair? He answered, yes, I have. While this would more routinely be done by a building principal, I have received other furniture in the building over the last 2 years, particularly in light of the COVID situation. My third question was, did Mr. Kelly bring you his concerns about this chair? He responded with, no, he did not, as it would not be a normal procedure. As this is a responsibility I've designated to him, I would only be involved if there was a question raised about a particular piece of furniture. My fourth question to him was, has Mr. Kelly ever brought concerns to you about other pieces of furniture in the building before? He answered, yes, he has. My fifth question to him was, have other parents or students made you aware of any concerns about the chair or other sanitary issues in Ms. Hertzl's room? He responded, no, they have not. My sixth question was, if it wasn't for Mr. Kelly bringing this to your attention, do you believe you would have taken measures to dispose of this chair? He stated, as noted above, I am only involved with furniture meditation when it is brought to my attention, but such matters have occurred routinely. My last question to him was, is this your biggest concern in the school right now? And he stated, no, it is not. No further questions.
Thank you, Counsel. Okay, at this time I'll ask the plaintiffs to come up and call their first in-person witness. This would be Margaret Farrell doing direct, and Elliot Lent, you may want to come up and park at the table so you can read across.
Our first witness today is Principal Mr. Kelly.
Sorry, I should have brought the remote out for the Mr. Kelly, please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Patrick Kelly, Principal of Triton Schools.
Thank you.
Triton High School.
Counsel, proceed with direct examination.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, what is your role at Triton High School?
I'm the Principal of Triton High School.
What duties and responsibilities go along with this?
So, as was previously heard, my responsibility is to manage and oversee the high school. So that involves all hiring, firing, staff management, overseeing any type of building operations, as well as ensuring the educational space and educational programming for all of our students.
What is your relationship with Ms. Herzl?
Ms. Herzl is a teacher at Triton High School, is somebody that I have in the past observed and evaluated, and is someone that is a program coordinator, which is a position that I appoint on a yearly basis for the history department.
Okay. What is the reason for the removal of the chair?
The chair in question I was informed by a student in one of her classes that Ms. Herzl had brought in this chair from the trash that was outside her neighbor's home. I went to Ms. Herzl and said that it's not sanitary to be bringing in furniture from the trash.
Could you describe another time that you've removed a cloth chair?
Yes. So at the start of the pandemic, well, not at the start, but we were starting to bring students back into the building and looking at getting ready for the start of the school year last year, so the 2020-2021 school year. We removed numerous pieces of cloth furniture, specifically couches and other chairs from classrooms, because they, one, in many cases were unsanitary, and two, were not going to be easily cleaned during the COVID pandemic.
Do you want me to go back to the... Okay, this is an email from Mr. Allen. Could you please describe this email?
So this is an email that Mr. Allen sent to me requesting that he be allowed to bring furniture into his classroom. This would be standard practice for a teacher looking to bring furniture in, would be to make a request of the building principal prior to just bringing it into their classroom. He was looking to specifically bring in furniture that his neighbor was looking to sell or donate.
And to what extent are teachers allowed to bring outside materials into the classroom when they pose a safety hazard to the students?
So teachers are often bringing in outside material, whether it's something to support the educational purpose of their learning space. But typically that's something that we go through a review process around. We're also consistently looking at the educational spaces we have in our building and assessing what types of learning materials are needed. Some things of note that our jury might recognize. So in our library, we've recently put in a number of new chairs that are more comfortable seating for people to use. We have a number of wooden tables that we've put into various classrooms and learning spaces, things that can be easily cleaned, and updated a number of pieces of office furniture over the past 3 years. So there are kind of regular review processes and regular times at which we're bringing new furniture into the building.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination, please.
All right, Mr. Kelly, how many classrooms are you examining every day?
Probably in 10 classrooms a day.
And do you look at all the furniture in the school?
Yeah, I do look at all the furniture in the school.
All right, could you describe the process for outside furniture coming into the building?
So a teacher would submit a request, usually that's an email in writing, stating that they would like to bring furniture into their classroom space. We've also had times where we've gone through a process where I've sent out information and asked teachers if they're looking to redesign their classroom space in some way to let me know, and when we've had the ability to purchase or bring in outside furniture to kind of reimagine a classroom space that we're providing the furniture to that teacher. That's something that Ms. Herzl herself has done in the past, and one of the reasons why she has wooden tables, and previously, this is the second set of wooden tables that she's had in her classroom.
All right, has all the outside furniture in this building gone through that protocol?
No.
And are you aware of all the current outside furniture in this building?
Yes.
Have you given any other teachers the same level of scrutiny regarding their furniture, or is it just Ms. Herzl?
It is just Ms. Herzl because her students came and said the chair came specifically out of the trash.
All right. In the rule you're referring to in the handbook, it is surrounding donations. Are you calling this chair trash or a donation?
So the chair that came in, well, actually, I'll start with, it's not actually from the handbook, that's school committee policy. So it was misreferred to previously, but that's school committee policy. It was, I think Ms. Herzl was looking at it as a donation coming into her classroom. I would say that it's trash coming out of the trash that shouldn't be coming into the classroom. And so it would be my determination to decide whether or not that was something we wanted to bring into the educational space.
All right. Ms. Herzl has previously had a chair in her room. Did you object to that?
She previously had a what?
Oh, a couch, sorry. A couch in her room.
So when the couch was in the room, I would say that that was not a sanitary piece of furniture that was there, and I was happy to see it go.
All right. Has COVID changed the process of bringing in furniture? And if so, what rules has it changed?
Can you say that one more time?
Has COVID changed the process of bringing furniture into the building? And if so, what rules has it changed?
So at again, in September of 2020, we sent out a notice to staff saying that we were going to be getting rid of any of the couches and soft furniture that was in their classroom that had come in from the outside, and stated that if they wanted to take those pieces of furniture back to their homes or wherever they initially came from, that they could come to it, move them all into the cafeteria. So if they wanted to take those pieces of furniture back, they could come to the cafeteria prior to the start of the school year and take them back to wherever they wanted to take them. And if they did not want to take them, we would dispose of them for the staff room. So that was something, again, that happened. I'm forgetting whether or not it was the end of August or the start of September of 2020.
All right. Ms. Herzl brought in a TV from home. Did you object to that?
I did not.
All right. And what has Ms. Herzl done to you to feel so objectifying to this chair?
Does anyone want to object to that?
Could you repeat that question, please, Council?
What has she done to you for you to feel so strongly about this chair?
I'm ruling that out of order. He's already answered how this came to his attention.
All right. You have previously given Ms. Herzl a damaged chair from your own room that you considered trash. Why would you consider this different?
The chair that was in my office, I was prepared to get rid of. Ms. Herzl pleaded to keep the chair. The chair had a ripped arm. It was not unsafe. It just was not as nice as it should be. It was not dirty, and it was something that had been previously purchased by the district, so we know of its origin.
All right. Are teachers allowed to use their budget money to furnish their rooms?
It would be something that would be a discussion between the program coordinator and the building principal. So some of the monies that are in the librarian's budget, for example, we used just this past summer to purchase new seating for the library.
All right. As a principal, do you expect teachers to spend their own money to furnish their rooms?
I do not.
Do you feel a room full of hard chairs and gray desks is the optimal learning environment?
I do not.
In your role as principal, is this the best use of our time to better the school?
Is this the best use of our time to what?
Better the school.
Objection. Relevant, Your Honor.
Sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Well done, Counsel. Thank you. The witness is dismissed. Plaintiffs, please come call your next witness. I believe this is the Will Smith Maeve Heffernan group.
Dr. Lothrop to the stand, please.
Order, especially the jury, you will show impartiality to the witnesses, please. No offense, it's nice that they like you. Dr. Lothrop, please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Adam Lothrop, science teacher at Triton High School, both biology and chemistry.
Thank you. Proceed, Counselor.
All right. Dr. Lothrop, where did you attend school and what type of credentials did you receive?
I got my bachelor's in biochemistry at St. Michael's College, my PhD in biochemistry at the University of Vermont, and did a 4-year postdoctoral study at Tufts University.
Your Honor, permission to question as an expert witness?
Granted.
Thank you. Just how many foreign contaminants could be on this chair?
I
Oh, wait.
could not.
Can you slip that to the other
speak
one?
to that.
Page, please. Thank you. All right.
There's a wide variety of possibilities of foreign contaminants. As Mr. Kelly previously stated, there's no way of knowing what the origin of this chair was, where it had been, what had been on it. So to the best of my abilities, I tested it specifically for bacteria, but I was not able to speak to any kind of previous material that had contaminated that may have been cleaned or removed.
Okay, so there could be like bodily fluids on this chair?
Potentially. The lack of evidence of that by staining on visual inspection does not discount that this chair was at one time contaminated and previously cleaned before it was disposed of.
So a household pet could have urinated on the chair as well?
That is a definitive possibility, but I cannot definitively state that.
So do you think it's appropriate to bring this in during a global pandemic?
I can't speak to the fact that it would be harmful any more than any other piece of furniture, other than the fact that it is made of fabric and is more difficult to clean.
Okay. So after swabbing the chair, what did you find?
In court, I actually have evidence.
Okay.
So I did swab the chair. I made a Laura Bertani agar growth plate, and I was able to go into the teacher's classroom and swab the seat, just the seat of that chair, and then just the seat of a student chair, which I believe had been previously shown as Exhibit C, as a point of fair comparison between the harder, more metal or plastic, I'm not sure entirely what it's made out of surface, versus the fabric of the chair, and culture that overnight and have bacterial evidence.
Okay, so after swabbing it, do you deem this chair a health and safety issue?
Potentially, as you have about mid-40s colony-forming units, there are about 40 different bacterial colonies from the Sertles chair that grew overnight, and that is, I didn't have enough time to fully incubate it either, nor did I have time to test for other types of bacteria. This is just a general guess.
So it could be even worse?
It could potentially be worse. However, I must also say, in fairness, the student chair, which was a different material and, as we all know, a harder surface, grew virtually the same number of bacterial colonies. So my contention that that is not as easily cleaned is correct. However, it does not appear that the chairs in her classroom are being regularly disinfected.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Roughly. I had only a question.
Dr. Lothrop, what surfaces are most likely to contain germs?
Any surface that's exposed. There are mold spores out in the air. If anybody wants to have fun, put a plate out on your counter for a day and then try it under a black light or culture it.
What would you say is a major concern of germs in a public space?
Infectivity. So there are bacteria, yeast, everything all around you on your skin at the moment. A lot of them are supposed to be there, but you have to worry very much about the pathogenic ones or contamination. On bacterial viruses, I did However, find, if it pleases the court, evidence from various scientific journals describing different surfaces that bacteria and viruses can live on and what times, and that this is a concern for hospitals already, especially with regards to fabrics.
Are the bathrooms and cafeteria the biggest concerns for the spread of germs?
Based on anecdotal evidence I have heard from the students, I would say yes.
Do you have lab tables in your classroom?
I do.
Would you say those lab tables contain germs from your different classes?
Potentially, but there are germs on every surface in the school. I'm more worried about chemical contamination on my benches.
Have you seen some of the germ-infested tables, surfaces, bathrooms, and chairs in this school?
I have.
What would you say is more likely to contain germs and pathogens, Ms. Herschel's chair or the auditorium chairs?
Without having been able to test these chairs, I can only make a circumstantial guess, but I would assume it would be the auditorium chairs, as there have been far more high contact, high throughput, more people sitting in them than the singular chair in Ms. Herschel's classroom.
And do you support the concept of recycling and helping the environment?
I do.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Lathrop, would you mind, for the benefit of the jury, can you give, you presented those articles, you had those articles, would you mind just summing up real quick, maybe 3 sentences that would be pertinent, 3 or 4 sentences for the jury? I know what you were looking for in those articles.
I will also submit, I just printed the abstracts, which I went wrong. There are nosocomial pathogens, which is infections you get from a hospital. So they are worrying about various surfaces, specifically this one on fabric, because they're worried about robes, sheets, bedding, curtains, and things that could potentially be transmitting pathogenic, whether it's bacteria, viruses, organisms, to patients, doctors, nurses, and what they can do to clean that and how long these organisms can live on these types of materials. There is also one where they tested steel and plastics, I believe. The consensus is weeks to months.
Thank you. Plaintiffs, please call your next witness. Evelyn Buxton, Tori Orander, you were planning on calling Mr. Collins, I believe.
Can Mr. Collins please come up to the witness stand?
Very well. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Brian Collins.
Alright, Mr. Collins, what is your role at Triton?
Maintenance.
And what duties and responsibilities go along with your role?
What was that?
What duties and responsibilities go along with your role?
Fixing, reporting issues to Mr. Kelly, just making sure the place is safe for school.
Alright, Your Honor, Ms. Stansmore, do I have permission to question Mr. Collins as an expert witness?
You do?
Alright. Mr. Collins, could you describe what your job was like at the beginning of the pandemic?
Sanitizing everything, anything,
Alright, and what are some of the types of furniture that you had to remove during that time?
Mostly upholstered furniture.
Alright, and how would you describe the state of some of the furniture that you had to remove?
It was all run down, all used, so stuff people wanted to throw out but didn't want to pay to have it thrown out, so they brought it to the school.
And what is your experience with chairs like the one in question? What is your experience with chairs like the one in question?
Trying to throw them out. Teachers have brought them in before. They've been filled with cockroaches, bed bugs, all sorts of creepy crawlers.
Alright, and what are your thoughts on the school COVID policy with regards to cloth furniture?
I think it's correct.
And how do you properly clean a chair of this nature to be COVID safe?
I don't know. How would you clean a mattress you picked up on the side of the road? It's basically the same thing. It's soiled, upholstered.
And what does a chair that poses health and safety questions in a time of COVID look like to you?
That.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination.
Mr. Collins, what is your protocol for determining whether furniture is unsanitary or unsafe?
Don't flip it over.
What happens to chairs you do believe are unsanitary or unsafe?
And I'll tell Mr. Kelly and he'll make a decision.
Can you name some common things that you have found under classroom chairs or other furniture?
Common things I've found in them.
Or under?
Just dirt, gum, just trash.
Would you say the classroom chairs are sanitary?
The top is, yeah, sure. You get that in there.
Did you immediately see Ms. Herzl's chair as cause for concern?
Yes, yes I did.
Can I ask why?
Have you seen the chair?
Do you believe the auditorium chairs are cause for concern? They are also fabric.
No, I don't think so.
Have you ever had any sanitary issues in Ms. Herzl's room before?
Yeah, did she have a couch with roaches in it before?
Was the couch not removed though due to COVID protocol and the fact that you can't have two-seaters?
Wait, what was that?
Was the couch not removed due to the fact of COVID protocols that you cannot have
Well, there's
two-seaters?
one we took out beforehand that was full of roaches. I think it was your room, wasn't it? It wasn't your room? No, I removed it. Yes, you did. It was infested with it. Yeah. Could have been a different room though. If it all, blends into one. Terrible situation.
Have you ever seen animals such as bugs, rodents, exit other pieces of furniture in the building?
Yes.
Do you believe that that is an immediate issue with Ms. Herzl's chair?
More than likely, yes.
Overall, how does Ms. Herzl's classroom compare to others?
Other than the chairs, it's fine. It's a regular classroom.
What would you say the biggest sanitary issue is in the school currently?
Mrs. Hertz's chair.
You wouldn't say it's the bathrooms?
Huh?
You wouldn't say it's the bathrooms? The bathrooms. They're not your biggest concern in the school right now for sanitary?
Yeah, that's beside the point.
So not the chair.
No, the chair is pretty nasty.
That's your biggest sanitary concern right now?
Yeah, the bathrooms are clean night. It's what the kids do. Is that?
Sustained.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. You are dismissed, Mr. Collins. Okay, plaintiffs. I have an indication. Where are the plaintiffs? I have an indication that you rest at that point. Is that you have no further witnesses, correct? You have not added any witnesses since we. Okay, thank you very much. Defense, would you please call your first witness? Artie Stanley and Nick Dupree. I believe you plan to call Mrs. Herzl. There's wheels on that podium, by the way. Mrs. Herzl, would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record, please.
Lisa Herzl.
Thank you. Counsel, proceed.
What is your job at Triton Regional High School?
I am a history teacher, and I am the program coordinator of the history department. And I do knitting club. I run knitting club.
What is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's in history and education with a minor in economics from the University of Vermont. I have a master's in special education from UMass Boston, and I have a certificate of advanced graduate studies in administrative leadership from American International College.
How long have you worked at Triton?
Since 2008.
What items not provided by the school have you previously brought into your classroom?
I brought many items in over the years. Almost all the books on my bookshelves I have brought in and provided. I have brought in bookshelves, lamps. I previously brought in a couch. I brought in this year a television from my home when the school failed to provide a working classroom projector in order for me to teach my students. And most recently, I have brought in a chair from my neighbor.
What items you brought in previously have been removed from your room for any reason?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
What items you brought into your room previously have been removed for any reason?
So at the end of, I believe it was like in May or June of 2020, when we were shut down due to COVID, all the teachers were given a day to come in to the classroom to remove any of our personal property. So at that time, I removed everything I could fit into my car, and I was unable, so I brought home my bookshelves, my lamps, some of my books, things like that. I was unable to fit, it was a full-size couch, I was unable to fit that into I just have a regular size car, and I didn't have anyone with a vehicle big enough to take the couch, otherwise I would have brought it home. But because I was unable to bring my couch home, the couch went, I believe it was to the cafeteria with the other furniture to be disposed of.
How has COVID affected the way you set up your room?
Could you repeat that question, please?
How has COVID affected the way you set up your room?
Thank you. What was your objection, please?
Relevant.
I'm sorry?
Relevant.
Overruled.
Well, COVID, as all classrooms, has had a lot of impact. Last year, I was not able, like most teachers, I had to have single student desks. They had to be spaced 6 feet apart, and some of the restrictions are starting to ease up this year. I am able to have tables in my room again, and therefore I thought that a single seat would be permitted because only one student or one person can sit in the seat at a time. And we are allowed to do group work, we are allowed to have more movement in the room.
What are the origins of the chair in question?
It belongs to my neighbor, or my neighbors, Glenn and Diane, who would probably be mortified if they knew it was on trial right now. They are a very nice couple in their 60s. They don't have children, and they have one small, I believe she's some kind of Yorkie named Molly. She weighs about 7 pounds. They don't smoke.
Why did you decide to bring in the chair?
I was looking to offer some more seating options in my classroom. I have several non-hard plastic, metal, whatever material that is, student seats in my room currently, and I was looking to be able to offer more seating options to my students, so this was an opportunity for me to do that.
Did COVID impact your decision making when you brought in the chair?
Yes, I will not bring in any type of furniture that would seat more than one person, and therefore students will be able to distance in the furniture.
Who has had a problem with you having the chair?
Mr. Kelly and apparently an anonymous student who reported the chair to Mr. Kelly.
No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination?
Ms. Herzog, at any point did Mr. Kelly ever tell you that you cannot own the chair, or did he say that you cannot own the chair within the school?
It had never come up before now.
So then you're not being deprived of your property. This is true. You are allowed to own the chair, just not within the school building.
That has not been made clear to me, but threatening to burn my property is a violation of my rights.
Ms. Herzog, do you own alcohol in your home?
Do I?
Possess alcohol in your home?
Sustained.
Is it true that you have previously brought in trash to your classroom and has gone as far as to make your freshmen dig through it?
I have brought in curated trash into my classroom. This is an activity I learned from a graduate course I took at Salem State, taught by Dr. Bethany J, on how to make history more interactive to students. This was also an activity that was presented at the Smithsonian and several other historical societies. So yes, I have had my freshmen do an archaeological research activity in my classroom.
But you have brought trash into the classroom.
It was items people were no longer using.
So is it true that you were one of the biggest enforcers of the mask policy here at Triton?
I don't know if I'm the biggest, but I I believe the audience, many of them can probably attest, that a good number of them have probably been told by me to put their masks on at some point in time.
So then you care about the health and safety of the students here, Triton?
Yes, I do.
So then why would you bring in such an unsanitary piece of furniture, knowing it could risk your children?
I brought it in so they had options besides this.
So students are allowed to sit in the chair?
I have allowed some students to sit in the chair.
Do you know how many students have sat in this chair?
I believe probably 2 or 3 at this point.
But do you know how many people overall have sat in the chair outside of the classroom?
I do not.
What sanitation methods have you used to clean the chair?
I have vacuumed the chair.
But you haven't used anything to wipe it down or disinfect it?
Like, yeah, not like anything wet, like a Lysol wipe, no.
So the answer is no. You have not disinfected the chair.
I'm going to overrule that objection. That's a different question.
Since the chair has been brought into my classroom, I have not wiped down or sprayed the chair with anything, no.
Did you ask permission to bring the chair into your classroom?
No, I've never previously asked permission to bring in any furniture.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Herzog. Defense counsel, call your next witness, please. Looks like Maeve, Heffernan, and Paige Levitt.
We would like to call Mr. Horsley to the stand.
Or no.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name for the record.
Thomas Horsley.
Mr. Horsley, can you give the jury a background to your profession?
Yes. I have a bachelor's degree in biology, in which I pursued environmental science and conservation biology. I then have a master's degree in biology, where I pursued these same topics as I pursued research within the field in South America before entering into education.
Your Honor, permission to question as an expert witness.
Granted.
Is it correct to run an environmental club at Triton?
This is correct.
In your opinion, as an environmental expert, would you consider this to be a piece of trash?
That looks like a perfectly reusable item to me.
If it was thrown away, what would the environmental damage be?
Well, an object such as this would more than likely wind up in a landfill, possibly in a waste incinerator, but one of the two. Either way, the chair would occupy space in the landfill and eventually degrade, more than likely undergoing anaerobic decomposition, which would likely lead to production of methane, which is in fact a greenhouse gas that is 26 times more potent than that of carbon dioxide, which the jury is likely familiar with as a potent source of greenhouse gas emissions. If it were to be fed into a waste incinerator, such as one like Covert waste-to-energy processing plant in Haven, that's a likely pathway, it would instead be burned, where it would more than likely produce more carbon dioxide, but could produce other atmospheric pollutants such as sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxides and particulate matter, which all carry health implications and would also contribute to global climate change.
And what are some of the benefits to recycling furniture?
So, the jury is likely familiar with the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Their order is not arbitrary. They are ordered in the in that sequence because reducing and reusing carry more benefit than recycling and so forth and so on. So the biggest benefit that we can all have on the environment is to reduce our use of disposable products and to purchase items that are quality items that will last a longer duration as opposed to buying cheaply produced items that we'll have to buy more frequently because we're using more resources along the way in that way. So this to me looks like a very quality item. And if we were to reuse it instead of dispose of it, this, number one, reduces the demand on the production of chairs because we keep this one in use for a longer period of time. And also, we prevent all of the ill effects that I had just summarized that would come from its disposal. I would also argue that Ms. Herzl, in keeping the chair and it proceeding through this trial, is setting an example for the student body and some of the adults in the building as well, that it's very important to buy quality products and reduce our consumption and to reuse items for as long as possible before disposing of them.
Is it important to encourage others to recycle and make use of old things to help our environment?
It absolutely is, and I would argue that this is a very good example of, especially within the context of a public school, of showing students that items such as this can be reused and that we can use this as an avenue to reduce our overall environmental impact. So Ms. Herzl, I would imagine, has anywhere on the order of 100 to 110 different students who are so fortunate as to see such an example such as this.
And at Triton, can we make a bigger impact to promoting the benefits of recycling the way Ms. Herzl has by making use of this chair?
Could you repeat the question?
At Triton, can we make a bigger impact to promoting the benefits of recycling the way Ms. Herzl has by making use of this chair?
Yes, absolutely.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Cross-examination, please.
Just to refresh my memory, what exactly is your expertise in?
Environmental science and conservation biology.
So I have taken a class with you. Do you not have expertise in bats?
Yes.
You do, okay. Does your expertise encompass bat-borne diseases? The chair was found outside.
Excuse me?
The chair was found outside.
I'm going to allow a little bit of leeway, but please be very careful.
Okay. So, does it encompass bat-borne diseases?
Yes, to a certain extent.
So, is there potential that this chair that was left outside, we are not 100% certain when it was put outside exactly, could have been exposed to diseases from bats?
I would say that would be highly unlikely.
But it is possible.
Given bat habitat preferences, especially thinking through the 9 species that do occur within Massachusetts, them being predominantly aerial insectivores that prefer to roost within small crevices that are off the ground, I would say that no, really it isn't possible.
Okay. So, moving on. Would bat diseases be very harmful to...
Counsel, you gotta get off the bat diseases here.
Have you ever thrown away recycled furniture?
At the end of its life cycle, yes.
Would you say that if something is too big for a dumpster, you would put it outside of a trash barrel on the side of the road, hoping that they would take care of it?
I would if someone else were to see use in a product that I no longer have use for. That is not.
Where were you before? Sustained.
Okay, so it is possible that this chair was on its last life, and that is the reason it was outside.
That its prior owner perceived that it was on its last life.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Horsley, you may go. All right, defense, let's call you next witness. Ben Riley and Margaret Farrell, I believe you guys are up.
And can we call Miss Fine to the stand? If she's here.
Make sure you get on the mic. A little bit closer.
Second.
Yes.
Thanks.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Tony MacDonald Fine, or Miss Fine.
Miss Fine, could you elaborate on your background as an artist and an art historian? For example, maybe give some examples of where you went to school and some possible qualifications you have?
Undergraduate degree in studio art with a minor in art history, a Master of Fine Arts in 3D art, 6 years experience in art museums at the Harvard Art Museum and the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, and 11 years teaching art and art history at a high school level.
Your Honor, permission to question the witness as an expert?
Proceed.
Ms. Fine, in your opinion, would this be defined as a vintage piece of furniture or something otherwise?
It looks to be vintage. I would say mid-century, as in mid-20th century, 1950s perhaps, a little bit older maybe.
And, I apologize. Could you elaborate on the values of restoring or preserving vintage furniture in possibly the case of this chair?
Yes, as we know, the saying of things aren't made the way they used to be. There's value to vintage art, furniture, objects of value due to their craftsmanship, their style that represents a certain time and place where it was created. Also, the retro style that can be very fashionable depending on the decade. This appears to be an example of a well-crafted, finely designed vintage armchair.
Would you say that this is an appropriately attractive piece of art in a general sense?
I would. The striking color palette of the chartreuse to mustard yellow color family, the tufted upholstered tan or crushed velvet is not something that we see come up often in vintage furniture, but is highly imitated in new furniture these days.
Well, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
Like you said before, you think this chair is vintage, but something has to be vintage. When something's vintage, it has to be at least 40 years old. Do you believe this chair is at least 40 years old?
At least 40.
40. 40. Are you sure?
I believe it is older than I am, and I am older than 40 years old.
What makes you think that this chair is older than 40 years old?
The materials that are used and the style, the slightly rounded back and rounded arms is older than the newer interpretations of this type of mid-century modern furniture.
Now I've heard Ms. Herzl is trying to argue that she upcycled this chair, but when upcycling, you're taking something that's broken or is old or is considered trash and making it new. Do you think she has upcycled this chair in any way?
In the sense that it was trash and is using it? Is that the question?
No, like that she did something to repurpose it. Like,
I'm not privy to what Ms. Herzl did with the chair before seeing it in her classroom. Other than I understand she took it in herself.
so you don't think it's upcycled? That she did something new with it?
I don't know if it's been upcycled or maybe I don't understand the interpretation of the word upcycled.
I have another question if that could work. Do you consider putting a pillow and a poncho on top of a chair, upcycling and making it new?
Perhaps not adding to the surface with another material unless it was permanent. So perhaps not by adding a poncho and a pillow.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Counsel. Mrs. Herzl, I feel like we need to pause for a time check.
Yes, we will have there will be a recess until tomorrow's C period, at which we will call our final witness and have closing arguments.
Court stands in recess.
Thank you.
The court will come to order. Today we are continuing the trial we began yesterday. I have the following remarks to make before we begin. This morning, our plaintiff, Mr. Kelly, chose to make comments about these proceedings on the public address system of the school. He then denied our defendant, Ms. Herzl, the courtesy of equal access so that she too could make comments publicly. This constitutes an abuse of power by Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly is hereby censured by this court for this abuse of power and is directed to make no further public comment about these proceedings in any public format to which Ms. Herzl does not have equal access. Members of the jury, you are directed to ignore any comments made by Mr. Kelly this morning. Further, it has been brought to the attention of this court that members of the jury have commented on what might happen should certain verdicts be delivered. Jury members, I remind you that you are to decide this case based only on the evidence presented here in formal court. You must leave your prejudicial opinions and biases out of your deliberations. With that, we are ready to resume our trial. Defense counsel, please call your next witness. I believe we left off with Savannah Soul and Sam Lynn calling Louis Bowen. Yes. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. State your name for the record.
Louis Bowman.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I called you. Proceed.
Louis, how do you know Miss Herzl?
She was my teacher freshman year, and then my crimes teacher junior year.
And when did you have, how devoted to the mask policy would you say Miss Herzl is in comparison to other teachers?
I think she actively encourages it. I've seen her pass out stickers for good mask behavior and learning it properly. I think she's kind of leading the charge with it.
Can you describe Miss Herzl's classroom environment both before and during the pandemic?
Beforehand, I thought it was pretty comfortable, and it was a welcome change from middle school, but also was a good transition period. And then after the fact, I think she still made an active effort to keep that environment, but obviously had to make some changes because of the COVID.
And what furniture did Miss Herzl have in her classroom in the past?
What was that?
What furniture did Ms. Herzl have in her classroom in the past, before the chair?
She had a couch in her room.
And can you describe how your learning experience was affected by this couch?
I personally sat on it for a majority of the school year. I thought it brought a homey environment to her classroom, and I think that it encouraged people to be more relaxed and focus on learning.
And how would you describe the level of safety you feel in Ms. Herzl's classroom in comparison to other rooms in this building, including classrooms and bathrooms?
I think that Ms. Herzl's room was one of the safest rooms in the building.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Mr. Boland, you are called as a witness today to support the character of the defendant. You were chosen because you have a history with Ms. Herzl. Would you mind once again stating for the jury which classes you had with her and what year you had these classes?
World History freshman year and Context Humanity junior year.
Have you taken any clubs with her outside of those classes?
The debate team.
And which year was that?
Junior year.
And did you enjoy your time in these classes?
I did.
So you participated in her freshman year CP World History class and her Crimes Against Humanity course, which ran during Triton's virtual school period. Mr. Bullen, how much did your enjoyment of these classes stem from Herzl as a character versus the ease of the class?
I think Ms. Herzl is able to combine the content with a good personality, and I think that if I did not like the way she taught, I would not have taken a class with her after the fact.
Would you say Herzl increased your enjoyment of the class?
I would.
So you claim Herzl herself increased your enjoyment, yet you refused to take AP European History in your senior year, despite the fact that Ms. Herzl and 3 of your close friends are also in said class.
Objection. Relevance.
Your Honor, we had previously established Bolin and Herzl's past relationship, but this series of questions will provide context for Bolin's relationship with Ms. Herzl in this year.
I'll allow it. Overruled.
Even when you dropped out of AP Gov earlier in the year, you refused to transfer to AP Euro, despite it being in the eligible transfer period. Why is this?
I don't think it looks too good if I drop an AP class to pick another AP class. It seems kind of weird.
So there's a limit on how much Ms. Herzl improves the enjoyment of the class as you would like to take it. So it seems to me that you do like her as a person, but you don't like or respect her as much as you might claim.
Objection. Relevance. What does that have to do with it?
That's the wrong grounds for objection. Try again. Sustained. Move on.
Mr. Bolin, if Ms. Herzl ever held a special event with optional attendance in the building, would you attend?
Depending on what the event it was about.
Mr. Bolin, on December 9th, 2021, Ms. Herzl held the Potato Fest during F period, the last period of the day, which ran during your study. And you did attend this event, as multiple AP Euro students can attest to. Did you enjoy Ms. Herzl's event?
I'd like to mention I also left that early, but...
Witness will answer the question, please. Did you or did you not enjoy the event?
It was alright.
Can you repeat that, Kenson?
It was alright.
So, you rudely left less than halfway through Ms. Herzl's event. Mr. Bolin, it sounds to me like you've had few classes with Ms. Herzl. One of which was 4 years ago, one of which was cut short due to COVID, and one of which you spent half the time on the other end of your computer screen. Furthermore, you refused to transfer to Ms. Herzl's class despite not having a good reason not to, and rudely left halfway through Ms. Herzl's most anticipated annual event.
Counsel, there should be a question in here, please.
The jurors simply cannot trust Louis Bolin to be a qualified character witness for Ms. Herzl.
I just said that. Get a question. You're late, son.
He still hasn't asked the question. He's got to ask the question.
Keep getting it.
Ask the question.
Just as a final question, Mr. Bolin, what are your overall thoughts on Ms. Herzl as a teacher and as a person?
As a teacher, I think Ms. Herzl has been more than adequate and done a very good job working through the troubles of COVID. As a person, I can only speak on my interactions in her classroom, which have been good.
No more further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Nice job. Nice job, both of you. Witness is dismissed. My understanding is at this point the defense counsel rests. Okay. So we now move to closing statements. For the plaintiff, Nick Dupuy. For the defense, Dylan Marshall. Why don't you both come up and be ready? We're going to start with the plaintiff's closing statement.
Before I begin reading what I have prepared, I think it's important to note that the defense did nothing with their last witness, and I would like to proactively speak upon all their arguments. Louis Boland proved that Ms. Herzl is a good teacher, which is not in question or trial today. Ms. Fine proved that she is an art teacher and understands history, which again is not on trial today. Mr. Horsley proved that there was no bats, feces, or anything affecting on the chair, again, not on trial today. So what I would like to say is that the defense proved all things that are irrelevant in this point of the trial. So members of the jury, it is apparent that the chair in question is a clear health and safety violation, poses an immediate threat to the well-being of all of Ms. Herzl's students. Ms. Herzl claims that her 14th Amendment right is being violated, but that's far from the truth. She is not being deprived of her right to property in any capacity. She is simply being told that she cannot possess the chair within the school in order to protect the safety and the rights of the children. She has blatantly disregarded these guidelines and has now created a situation of uncertainty and potential harm for her students and other members of this building. The impact that the chair has on the aesthetics of the room is minute compared to the legitimate health and safety concerns that arise from the chair being present in the room. There is no argument that the defense can make that can discredit the danger of having the chair present in an environment that is supposed to nurture children's learning. Members of the jury, we have proved that Mr. Kelly not only has the authority to remove the chair, but that it is in the best interest of the learning community that the chair be removed for the safety and health of the student body. Ms. Herzl has blatantly disregarded the protocols that were implemented to protect students while they are in school, and for this she must be held accountable. We are asking that you recognize Ms. Herzl's guilty actions, and for the sake of the children, remove the hazardous chair from her classroom. Do not let Ms. Herzl's selfish and heartless actions hurt the innocent children who only want to learn. Thank you for your time. The plaintiff rests.
Okay, I would like to restate the correct facts of today's case. Ms. Herzl brought a chair into school after finding it, not in the trash, clean on November 29th. Then she brings it into school on December 1st. We know Ms. Herzl would never purposefully put students' health in danger based on Lewis's testimony. Rather, she's trying to promote a comfortable learning environment. Mr. Kelly notices the chair and makes a targeted attack at Ms. Herzl, not liking the chair. Today's lawsuit ensues. Mr. Kelly, on the basis that the school handbook policy requires a review process for any furniture to enter the building. Mr. Kelly wanted Ms. Herzl to remove the chair without going through the review process, which we know is against Ms. Herzl's 14th Amendment right. The 14th Amendment states, all citizens are given an equal opportunity to a reasonable form of trial or review process before having their right to own property revoked. Ms. Herzl never received this chance as she was ordered to remove her chair. Ms. Herzl declines to remove the chair from her room as Mr. Kelly is violating her rights. As a continuation of Mr. Kelly's targeted attack, he then decides to create a lawsuit rather than follow standard procedures. Many things in the school are less sanitary than the chair. For instance, the auditorium chairs or the current state of the bathrooms. We know this is the case based on Dr. Lothrop, Mr. Collins, and Mr. Horsley's testimony. Both student and the personal chair had similar amounts of bacteria, so it's hard to distinguish which one was truly dirtier. Ms. Herzl has been working here for 14 years and has never had to undergo a review process for any of the furniture in her room. Many teachers have brought furniture without review in and had not had to undergo the same process and did not have Mr. Kelly come after them. This is a targeted attack on Ms. Herzl and a waste of Mr. Kelly's valuable time when there is much more pressing health and safety matters during this COVID pandemic. Not to mention, Mr. Collins' testimony is likely biased, as Mr. Kelly is his boss, and saying anything negative to Mr. Kelly's case may have had a negative repercussion for Mr. Collins. Members of the jury, do you know where every piece of furniture in your house has been? Who sat on it? No. But do you still consider it safe and clean? Yes. So why should Ms. Herzl's chair deserve so much scrutiny when we know that only a few people have sat on it recently? This is a targeted attack and that's the end of it. Ms. Herzl should not have to remove the chair from her room without the proper process. Thank you all members of the jury for attending tonight.
Thank you, counsel. Members of the jury, your job today is to decide whether, based on what is known as a preponderance of the evidence, Ms. Herzl flouted school authority by bringing this chair into her classroom, or if instead Mr. Kelly is discriminated against Ms. Herzl, applying the rule arbitrarily and capriciously. By a preponderance of the evidence, which is the standard in civil court, we're talking about whether the majority of the evidence favors one side or the other. Arbitrary or capricious application of the rules would be like if somebody saw you wearing a yellow shirt and they decided they didn't like yellow shirts, they made you change because it was a dress code violation, you see? It's arbitrary. Meanwhile, there's other people wearing a different shade of yellow and it's totally fine. Okay? It's not a perfect analogy, but I'm hoping it kind of gets the concept across. In our case today, I will not ask you for a unanimous verdict, but I will ask that 12 of the 15 of you agree. You'll retire to A205 across the hall to deliberate the case. Please elect a foreperson. When you're finished, write your verdict down on a piece of paper and have Mrs. Lewis hand it to me. You will file back in, and then I will call upon the foreperson to read the verdict to the court. And I'm actually going to ask, usually you just stand in the jury box, I'm actually going to ask you to come up here to the mic so you can be heard properly.
We also only have 13 today.
Okay, so then I will ask for 9 of the 13 of you to, no, excuse me, 10 of the 13 of you to agree. Okay? And then I will ask the foreperson to read the verdict to the court. It should be phrased simply as, we the jury find in favor of, and you'll say either Mr. Kelly or Ms. Herzl. Make sense? I'd also just like to say thank you very much for serving this way, jury. Our system requires ordinary people to step in and do this. And if you were going to court, you'd want people that would serve on juries that had brains and smarts, right? There's this running joke about about always trying to get out of it, but you should step up and do it. Anyway, go, make your deliberations, and sadly, because we are in a weird time, I'm going to ask you to try to complete them in the next 10 minutes. My apologies for having to set a time limit. Court stands in recess while the jury is deliberating.
Alright, yeah, let's talk.
Kelly.
Why? No, facts. You're not just saying you don't like it.
I said the facts.
Oh, the facts.
Yeah.
Which were?
Mr. Kelly's chair should be there.
Okay.
Ultimate authority.
Because
it's dirty.
Ultimate authority?
Yeah,
that's what you're going with?
Yeah, but he also used his authority to make Miss Herzl at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I would say that the authority is pretty arbitrary. I agree that it was arbitrary.
I also don't think I don't know what his defense were, Mr. Will's defense. I don't think they really provided a great defense for him, showing that the chair was dirty and the reason why.
They did absolutely nothing with Lewis, their last witness.
Well, no, not them. I don't think Mr. Kelly's. They swabbed it.
People, yeah, but it showed no evidence. It basically said that the chair was the same as the.
Yeah, it had 30 different chairs.
Yeah, but so did the regular chairs.
Oh, yeah.
So they were the same.
I think every chair is here gross.
Yeah. So I feel like
everything is gross. You put your butts on it, it's gonna be gross.
Stay on task, though.
Ms. Herzl's arguing that they're forcing her to get rid of it, and they're not actually forcing her to
not own it anymore. She can still own it, but she just can't have it
what
here.
they wanted to do was explode it.
But they never said that
They
in the
did.
trial.
They stated
They
that in
did.
their opening statements.
I think what you guys need to consider is, well, obviously all of the facts, but is Mr. Kelly going to do the same thing to all of the other outside furniture in the school? Because it's surrounded, like, they're asking whether Ms. Herzl is being discriminated against.
Yeah.
Or her chair, rather, versus.
Yeah, he's not gonna go all around the school
No.
like that. No way.
Yeah.
But yesterday in his testimony, he said he is aware of all of the furniture in the school.
But
why
if
is
he's
he
aware,
targeting her?
that doesn't mean, but they never said
Well,
that he got
because
rid of all of
somebody,
it.
nobody's brought up another, like another piece of furniture in anybody's room. It was only brought up because a student complained about it.
I remember he said something like he was aware of all like the outside furniture in the school, but not that all of them were like checked to be sanitary. You know what I'm saying? So like, right? Isn't that like it?
But like, say if another student complained about a different piece of furniture, like and it was totally clean and not carrying any bacteria, would they take it out? Like if one student complained about it?
No.
Exactly.
They would
So
not.
I complained about that chair right there, I don't like it. Are they gonna take that chair out of the room?
That's such a good point. Yeah. That literally
Exactly.
though. I
But that chair didn't come from the street where there's just trash.
But like, they don't know where, it didn't say where it was from.
No.
It said it was from the They neighbor's have no- house. they have no-
They said they found it on the sidewalk there.
Yeah, there's no
Outside.
information that it was like trash day or it was next to a trash barrel. Like there was nothing about that. It was just said that it was on the side of the road and considered to be trash. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it was being thrown out.
And it wasn't on the side of the road somewhere random. It was at her neighbor's house, who she knows.
And they're old too, so old people have like dust and dirt on everything.
That's an assumption.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
So, based off of facts, do you guys feel comfortable coming to a verdict?
I think so.
Okay, we're gonna go around and vote. Olivia, in favor of Herzl or Kelly? Herzl. John?
Herzl.
Alyssa? Julia?
Herzl.
Zach? Jana? Herzl. Emily? McCall? Are you sure?
There's some thought now.
It seems like
Kelly. Okay.
Oh, well, that's
Julia, did I get you?
Yeah.
Okay. Kaya?
Kelly.
Other Kaya?
Kelly. That's
It's getting close.
Kelly.
Jen?
Kelly.
I think it's gross.
8 and 5. Uh-oh, we gotta keep going. We have to be 10.
Okay, but if you think it's gross,
No, we have
and
to be
like,
9.
that's still
I said 10.
Law makes it,
Yeah, but she said that like,
law makes it, like, I don't know.
like, I don't know. Give me.
I mean, I personally have, it's like, in my own home, my stepdad was very big on like seeing things on, like seeing pieces of furniture on the side of the road and bringing them home. I have plenty of pieces of furniture in my house that are like that, and I've never had any problems with them. Like, they've all been clean. They're just, like, someone got a new table. We do it with our own stuff. We've had couches and stuff that we just don't use anymore, and we just put it on the side of the road because we got a new couch. Like, I think it's a normal thing. I don't necessarily think it means that it was dirty or trash or, like...
I think she should have taken the extra steps to clean it. I think it just comes off as like something that wouldn't be sanitary. Like she only said she vacuumed it. Like if she wanted to take the extra steps from it being outside, she could get it like you take like a little rug cleaner thing to it, or like try to get some of the dirt and like gross.
You can always
There's not
get
a
things
whole
like-
lot you can do to fabric like
You can
that,
always
though.
get stuff professionally clean. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's not like this.
Also, this is about whether Mr. Kelly is basically discriminating or not about.
Oh yeah, it's not really about the chair being dirty.
This is about
It's the chair dirty in there.
This is about him basically going up to her and saying, "Oh, you can't have that chair because a student complained about it." Whereas he knows about other furniture that came in through the school, and say if I complain about like something else that another teacher had, Plus,
you wouldn't
this
get
is-
rid
I
of
think
it.
there
It's
was
something
Couches
special.
again,
Yeah.
That people
They're-
complained about it. They were
Oh, I've
taken
complained
out.
about those forever, but they
Yeah,
only got
they
taken
were taken
out.
out.
They only got taken out for COVID.
Okay,
They
we have
weren't
less
taken
than
out
5
for-
minutes. We
So
gotta.
basically, we just have to think about what this trial is actually about,
Yeah.
and not
Plus,
whether or
she's
not
had
we like the chair.
she's had other furniture outside that she has said she never like went through the process, and he knew about it and allowed it, and never said anything about it. But this chair is for some reason different.
So I think that shows that he's not discriminating against her because he's let her have furniture before.
But he is.
He also
because-
wasn't our principal when
Yeah.
that happened. Just throwing that out there.
He what?
And if
He
anybody,
wasn't
I
on
feel
the
like if anybody else were to complain about another piece of furniture, he would do the same thing. Go look at it and be like, all right, well, obviously something's wrong with it. So he's not gonna just like
But
put it on the
Well,
back.
you can just look at something and tell, like, obviously you can see if something looks dirty, but it doesn't mean it has, like,
I think
harmful
that
bacteria.
It also depends on who complains about it.
I think that what he should have done, in my opinion, is he should have said, okay, we need to get this, like, if you want to keep this chair, we should do it in the correct way, instead of just saying, get rid of it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there's a way for her to bring it in a quote-unquote correct way, and maybe it didn't happen, but instead of telling her that and being like, hey, let's do this correctly, he immediately went to get rid of it, like, no other option.
She had the chair before COVID too, right?
They
No,
also
that was
this
no.
year.
No,
That was her
this
code.
year.
They also could have brought up the like anonymous student and said like why they didn't like the chair. Like not
Well,
the,
but
like
it
they
was
should
the
have
point
just
of anonymous
well,
student.
no, they should have just said like they should have. I'm not saying bring up the student. I'm just saying like they should have brought up the point of like why they didn't like the chair, not.
Well,
Yeah,
because
like-
it's an anonymous student.
Like said the anonymous
No.
tip, like what they said.
Yeah,
like
say
why
the
they didn't
anonymous
like
said
it,
like
yeah.
why they didn't like
Yeah,
it,
that's valid.
like what was making them not like the chair, and then that would allow us to make a better decision.
So what are
about
we
what's
supposed to
going
do
on.
from now? Like what do we do with that? Do we revote?
Has anyone changed their minds?
Is Ms. Herzl being discriminated against, or is Mr. Kelly absolute authority no matter what?
It's his job. It's not
I think Mr.
discriminating.
Herzl's being
You own the
discriminated.
chair, you just can't own it here. That's good.
Don't ask me. I'm not voting. Talk to your classmates.
I
It might
just
be hung
genuinely
after
think
this.
that
I
it
think we
was-
don't have time.
I just don't think that it was, the way that he went about it isn't correct in saying like, you have to get rid of it, because,
There's always a way to do something.
yeah.
It just depends if you want to.
I guess I'll just change my vote.
Why? Because I just want it to be over with.
Well, nobody else is gonna change it, and I guess I go both ways. Like I can agree with both sides, so it really doesn't matter which side I end up on.
Well, even if you switch though, we still need another vote.
Yeah. So I can go both ways. I don't really mind.
Makala.
So do you
Yeah.
feel like Mr. Kelly
I think
is
it's
discriminating against Ms.
I
Herzl?
feel like
or
you
not?
are gonna change your mind.
I mean, I do because there is I'm thinking about the email that Mr. Allen sent about the like asking for
I think
Couch.
the email
Yeah,
was
but
just
Mr.
showing
Allen-
that's like what's usually happened when Herzl
Yeah.
didn't do that.
Mr. Allen asked to bring a chair.
Yeah.
Ms. Herzl just brought the chair without any permission.
But was
But did
it
he say he
made
got it
clear
from
to
the
Ms.
same
Herzl that she needed
place?
to ask? I think
Like,
that's...
he's
no, because she's brought in other furniture before without asking.
Yeah.
and other
Well,
teachers have brought
It was
furniture
never
too.
brought to her attention that that was per se an option that she could have gone through. Instead, they just immediately were like, all right, it needs to go. That's like kind of the point I'm trying to make is like, you're supposed to like bring it up to the school council, I think, right?
That's for donation.
Okay, well, there's supposed to be like a conversation had, and there wasn't, but she was never given the opportunity to after that. Because even though under Mr. Kelly, this was her first, like, under Mr. Kelly, this was the first problem that she's had, so this is the only time Mr. Kelly's had a problem with it. So there should be a conversation about like, okay, this is what needs to be done, let's try and get that done.
Are we swinging or not? Are we on?
Hey.
Yeah? No.
Sure.
Yeah? Alright, we
The
swing.
jury needs to make a
We
decision.
got it.
We
It's
got
a
it,
very
Ms.
hard decision.
The court will come to order.
Make sure you mention the number.
Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict where 10 of the 13 of you agree?
Yes, we have. We have reached the verdict in favor of Ms. Herzl.
Calm down. The jury, we thank you once again for your service. Thank you also to all the people that prepared all of the questions and such. You did a very good job. Thank you all for coming and being a terrific audience for our mock trial. The court stands adjourned.